Mr. Kaine.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I begin again, as many others have, just expressing condolences to the family of Sarah Beckstrom, 20-year-old specialist from Webster County, West Virginia. She enlisted in the West Virginia Army National Guard when she was a senior in high school. Andrew Wolf, the staff sergeant, 24 years old, who is, thank God, recovering in critical condition, but recovering from Martinsburg, had been in the Guard, also enrolled in his senior year in high school. I also want to mention other colleagues, a name that hasn't been mentioned, Alabama Staff Sergeant Jacob Hill, 30-year-old, who had served in the Guard for 13 years. He died during the deployment to D.C. in a non-duty medical emergency when he was stationed at residing in a hotel in Virginia. He died on the 13th of November. The D.C. deployment has been the subject of a litigation, and I want to read the ruling of the court in District of Columbia versus Donald J. Trump from November 20, 2025, 6 days before the two soldiers were assassinated. Here is the ruling of the court. First, the DOD defendants have exceeded the bounds of their authority under Title 49 of the D.C. Code and thus acted contrary to law in deploying the D.C. National Guard for non-military crime deterrence missions in the absence of a request from the city's civil authorities. And second, these defendants lack statutory authority under 32 U.S.C. Section 502, Section 32, to support their request for assistance from out-of-state National Guards and their actions in calling those guards to the district. The court ruled that the D.C. Guard couldn't be used for garden variety law enforcement activities without a request by the mayor, and the out-of-state guards could not be summoned here. That violated the defendant's legal responsibilities and exceeded it. The administration is appealing that order. That order came down 6 days before the assassination of these troops. The administration is appealing, as is their right. But I just want to say to the families, what we owe to you is a vigorous prosecution to the full extent of the law of the criminal who assassinated these two individuals, killing one and badly wounding the others, and badly wounding Staff Sergeant Wolf. But if this legal order is upheld, and these were unlawful missions, these individuals shouldn't have been here. They should have been celebrating Thanksgiving with their families at home rather than patrolling near Farragut Square in Washington. And if those legal orders are withheld, there's something additionally we owe these families in addition to the prosecution of the assassin. The civil officials responsible for an unlawful deployment will owe these families a deep, deep apology for the losses that they have suffered. The prosecution of the assassin is important. But responsibility and acceptance of responsibility from civil servants issuing illegal orders is also important. It's deeply important. I would encourage my colleagues to read this 61-page order that was issued. I think it's quite persuasive. We'll see how it stands up on appeal. But I had the deep feeling on the day that the sad news broke about the shooting that the two West Virginians should have been home with their families celebrating Thanksgiving that day rather than here on a mission of questionable legality. General Gue, I want to ask you a question in my remaining seconds. You talked about the training that Guard members receive. What training do Guard members receive when they're deployed in these missions about dealing with folks who present with mental health issues? Local law enforcement receive very significant training on this topic. I wonder what training our National Guard members receive on this topic.
Senator, those that are deployed in Title 10 status receive two primary types of training before they're allowed to go on mission. The first is on the standing rules for the use of force to ensure that at first they learn how to de-escalate and then use any force as a last resort, but first non-deadly force before deadly force, only when all lesser means have been attempted and failed, and they're protecting themselves or the fellows.
I'm now over time, but is in either the two kinds of training that you were describing,
Yes, sir.
do these Guard members receive the critical training about dealing with folks with mental health instances? I spoke with Mayor Bowser the other day, and she talked about the fact that the Metro PD all receive significant mental health training because a significant percentage of the instances where they're interacting with folks who might be a danger to themselves or others are driven by mental health issues. It was her impression, and mine as a former mayor and governor, that that's not the kind of training that our National Guard members receive.
What is the answer to that, General?
Senator and Chairman, the answer is they do not receive specific training in that regard.
Thank you.